the young people, all of you, who toil every day to ensure the success of the EPA, and importantly, all the awardees tonight, I want to congratulate you and to wish you continued success. But more importantly, I want to take just a few brief moments to not only reflect on the tremendous work the EPA is entrusted with, first of all, because in this phase of our national development, EPA is entrusted with tremendous responsibility from an oversight perspective, a regulatory perspective, and importantly, from a monitoring perspective. The role of, if someone would have said to those at EPA 5 years ago, 7 years ago, that you would have been assuming this very diversified, significant role in national development in which your agency, the EPA, is not only at the forefront, but is at the center of every national development issue now. That is where the EPA is positioned. Now it is a position that requires great responsibility. The EPA at the center of everything that constitutes national development requires innovation, it requires knowledge, it requires continuous learning, it requires application of laws and regulation, and it requires an innovative approach to you doing your work. And that is why it is so important and significant that you spend some time tonight to recognize each other and recognize those who would have performed outstandingly. Everyone would have performed well. But there might have been some who the agency found were outstanding in the last year, and you are being awarded tonight, and it's important that you recognize that, and I ask you to applaud yourselves. Now, there are three things that are critical to us. You hear a lot of people talking about the oil and gas economy, food security, manufacturing and industrial development, the changes in the infrastructure landscape. But I've consistently made a very important point. That is, one of the important planks of our economy in the future would be ecological services, climate services, and biodiversity services. These are three sets of services that Guyana would offer globally that will carry a price tag. Already we see our carbon trade has taken on a life on its own. In just 4 years, less than 4 years, we have managed to regain our position globally as a lead thinker, a lead activist, and a lead innovator on forests and forest issues. Guyana has been repositioned once again in lead position globally, and we should be proud of this. And we cannot celebrate the work of EPA without recognizing those in the forestry sector. Because your brothers and sisters in the forestry sector are also doing an enormous job at ensuring that our forests and our ecological services, biodiversity services, our watersheds are kept intact so that they can be a mainstream economic developmental plank through which the country would continue to grow. We'll continue to build in a low-carbon development strategy framework that ensures environmental sustainability. But environmental sustainability is not just about planting trees and keeping the trees. It's about ensuring that a country benefits in a sustainable way while you practice sustainable policies. And that is why livelihood of the indigenous communities, livelihood of riverine communities, livelihood of the people in our country, our fellow brothers and sisters who live across the country that are heavily dependent on environmental and climate services, that are custodians of those services to a large extent, that they do not have to sacrifice their livelihood or their ability to have equitable development or an equitable opportunity at advancing their life. And that is important in a model that we are pursuing. So the EPA would find itself not only as part of the regulatory body and the oversight mechanism in all the development projects and all the oil and gas projects, but importantly, as we build out this plank of the economy, which is ecological services and climate services, the EPA will have to continue to expand its wings. And you are listening to the growing out of the EPA, having 3 new departments. But soon, we'll have to start discussions on how we create the economic modeling. Because for biodiversity services and ecological services, there is no formula. There is no modeling as yet globally. And we have to do a lot of this thinking work. We'll have to do a lot of this theoretical work in positioning these as important services globally. We have already committed to the world that we are going to take on this responsibility. And that would require the EPA in its policy orientation to develop this ability so that we can now move one step further in the expansion of the plank of development on climate services. So you're not only celebrating where you are today, you have this opportunity to have a thorough understanding as to where this agency will be. We have the US ambassador here. We have our friend from the UK, the deputy chief of mission here. And she will tell you that we have a great partnership with the King's Foundation. And in that partnership, we are looking at the reurbanization of Georgetown into a sustainable, climate-friendly space. We have the ambassador, Chinese ambassador here. We are also working on 2 parks initiatives to not only modernize our parks, but to make them showpieces globally in terms of green parks and how do we manage green parks. We are also aligning a lot of our environmental standards and changes to the legislation now with those of the US, because in our strategic discussions, the type of development that is taking place in the Western Hemisphere requires an alignment in terms of our regulations and our laws. So we are still on this journey of finding the best practices. But we also have an opportunity in showcasing best practices that originates out of Guyana, and that is the more exciting part of this work. How do we do this? We have already proven it on the forestry side. So looking around this room, there's 2 things that we must be proud of. Our environment is in the capable hands of many women here. Put your hands together for that. And we all know that if you want ultimate care for anything, put it in the hands of our women, and they will demonstrate that care. The second thing that is very exciting about this room is the young faces. I said at a function just a few moments ago, yes, Ambassador, all these young faces. Because we have to excite ourselves by understanding where the country is going. And you will find great fulfillment in the task ahead. And let me say to you, greater conditions for national development, greater reward greater salaries, all of those things are ahead of us. But one thing we have to do, as this emerging Guyana, we have to get involved. We have to get excited about the future. And the only way you can do that is if you come together in the organization and have scientific discussion, have theoretical discussion, but have also practical discussions, not only on climate and environment, but on the development trajectory of the country. And then position yourselves, position the entity in that development trajectory. And you will see, if you don't get excited, then something is wrong. You need a lot of adrenaline rush here. You need a lot of coffee. Even agriculture. Today I was speaking about the damage in the agricultural sector with Hurricane Beryl. All the gains we made since 2020 in the islands, completely gone in 45 minutes. But what it teaches us is that climate smart is doing everything smart. Maybe we can't have the big mango trees that we had historically in the region, but you can still have high-yielding, prolific mango trees that are of different variety and yield that can give you the same revenue and less susceptible to the type of wind. So as we build back, we have to build back with all of these things taken into consideration. You in the EPA, you are at the center of everything that is happening in this country now. And when you're at the center of everything, you have to be aware. And the only way you can be aware is by continuous learning, continuous knowledge, and importantly, a love for reading. Reading and understanding where our country is going. So I will have to leave you early, but I want to wish all of you the best. Comrades and the management team, congratulate you, the board, and every staff for the enormous work that you have done and your contribution to national development. Thank you and God bless you.